Hey, what is going on, guys? In this video today, we're going to be discussing sensitivity in Fortnite, and to be a bit more specific, I'm going to be disproving one of the most common misconceptions about sensitivity in Fortnite. I really believe that the information I'm going to share is something that's going to surprise a lot of people, because when I learned about it 3 to 4 days ago, I was totally shocked. And along with it just being surprising, it also has some very important applications to the sensitivity values that you use when you play Fortnite, and especially if you play Fortnite with a controller. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Alright, so as I'm sure you guys are all aware of by now, controller Fortnite has 5 different important sensitivity options: X and Y, targeting, scoped, building, and editing. Now, one thing that's totally 100% true about these sensitivity options is that they're all based around your X and Y sensitivity primarily. For example, if I have my X and Y sensitivity set to 8 and my building sensitivity set to 1.0, and my friend has his X and Y set to 4 and his building sensitivity set to that same 1.0, even though we have the same building sensitivity, since our X and Ys are different, it doesn't matter, my building sensitivity will still be significantly higher. That part right there is totally true, and I think everybody already knew that, but here's where I'm probably going to surprise a lot of you guys. For the longest time, people have assumed, especially with building and editing sensitivity, that to calculate your quote-unquote real building or editing sensitivity, it's as simple as taking your X/Y sensitivity and then multiplying it by your building/editing sensitivity. So just to keep the numbers simple, let's say you play on 6x, 6y sensitivity, and your building sensitivity is set to 1.5. It would make logical sense that your building sensitivity would be equal to 9.0. I've always believed that. I've heard tons of other controller pro players and big YouTubers/streamers say that, and I'm sure a lot of you guys out there have thought the same exact thing. But I'm here to tell you that's not actually how it works. And it's not just for one of the sensitivities, like just building sensitivity for example, it's all of them. So first, let me show you guys a clip of me showcasing the difference between 5x, 5y sensitivity with a 2.0 building sensitivity, and 10x, 10y sensitivity with a 1.0 building sensitivity. Well, actually, it's going to be set to 1.001 because for some reason the game wouldn't let me do 1.0 exactly. In theory, these should be totally equal since 5 times 2 is the same thing as 10 times 1. Now here's the exact same experiment done with editing sensitivity. And finally, the same thing again, but this time with targeting sensitivity. So I think what you saw in those videos were pretty much crystal clear. Just to use the building sensitivity video as an example, 5x 5y with a 2.0 building sensitivity was actually significantly slower, like seriously it wasn't even close, than 10x 10y with 1.0 building sensitivity. So now, let's get into why that information is actually important. Since we now know that these sensitivities aren't just direct multipliers of x and y, it means that it's very hard to copy specific sensitivity values without copying everything. And I can give a perfect personal example of what I mean by that and why it's important. Towards the beginning of Season X, I changed my x and y sensitivities for the first time in a long time. However, even though I wanted to change my x and y, I wanted to keep my targeting/ADS sensitivity the same as it was before. So I thought to myself, alright, this is going to be fairly simple. I'll just multiply my old x and y sensitivity by my old targeting sensitivity, and whatever number I get, I'll make sure that's the same number as when I multiply my new x and y sensitivity by my new targeting sensitivity. But knowing what I know now, it doesn't actually work like that, and it probably explains why for the first few days on my new sensitivity, my ADS aim specifically felt kinda off. Another example of how this is important is whenever you try to copy someone else's sensitivity. Let's say you watch a phase sway video, for example, and you decide that you want to copy his building or editing sensitivity because he's insane. And I don't actually know what his real sensitivity is, but let's just say his x and y is 8 and his building sensitivity is 1.5. However, even though you want to use his building sensitivity, at the same time, you want to keep your x and y sensitivity the same because you feel really comfortable with it and you feel like aim is one of your strengths. So you may think pretty much the same thing as what I did with my targeting sensitivity. Okay, so his x and y is 8 and his building sensitivity is 1.5, and since my x and y is 6, I just need to set my building sensitivity to 2.0, and it'll be the exact same thing as him since they're both equal to 12. But in reality, his building sensitivity is actually going to be significantly higher than what yours is. So when it comes to copying other players' sensitivity values, it really is an all or nothing kind of situation. And now that we know that, it really makes me ask two different questions. The first question is, why aren't these values actually just direct multiples of x and y? I don't know about you guys, but I think it would make a lot of sense for a 5x 5y sensitivity with a 2.0 building sensitivity to simply make your building sensitivity equal to 10.0. I feel like that's a much more simple system that makes the whole sensitivity selection process a lot better as a whole. The theory that some people have why this isn't the case is that it's due to aim acceleration on controllers. However, I'm about 99% sure that isn't actually true. Aim acceleration only really affects how fast you move in the beginning of your joystick movement, and it shouldn't have any effect on the max speed your sensitivity reaches. But just to be sure, I even decided to try the same exact test you saw in those clips earlier, but this time I did it with the foot controller setting on, and as we discussed in a previous video, that setting actually removes aim acceleration from your controller. And what I found was that the results seemed exactly the same as they did with aim acceleration on. 10xy sensitivity with 1 building sensitivity was definitely faster than 5xy with 2 building sensitivity. The other question here is, if building, editing, and targeting sensitivity aren't just direct multipliers of x and y sensitivity, well then what exactly do those values really do? Obviously, a 5x 5y sensitivity with a 2.0 building sensitivity is definitely going to be higher than a 5x 5y sensitivity with a 1.5 building sensitivity. But we really have no clue how much higher it really is. And seriously, if you guys paid close attention to those clips earlier, it seemed like those two sensitivities that should have in theory been equal weren't even close. If 10xy with 1.0 building sensitivity is actually 10, which it definitely is, then I would say 5xy with a 2.0 building sensitivity felt way closer to like 6 or 7 than it did to 10. And even if you check the in-game explanation that Fortnite provides when you hover over building sensitivity, it's pretty vague. It says, sets the modifier for controller sensitivity when in build mode. 1.0 will have no change when in build mode, lower settings will have more slowdown when in build mode, and higher settings will increase sensitivity when in build mode. So that basically just tells us what we already know and doesn't provide any extra insight into how much higher or lower your sensitivity becomes when you choose any value other than 1.0. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you watched the entire thing, be sure to let me know with a comment down in the comment section below. First off, are you guys surprised by the information about sensitivity that I shared in this video? And second, does that information affect what you guys are going to do with your sensitivities? Be sure to leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, turn on post notifications, do whatever the heck you want, and I will catch you guys next time.